If the seafood industry disappeared, the world would be like a dining table with one leg removed, causing the largest food crisis on the planet. Every year, global trade in aquatic animals reaches approximately 184 billion USD, on par with the trade in land-based meat. But behind that figure is a gigantic machine: trawlers sweeping the oceans, purse seines enclosing entire schools of migratory fish, and aquaculture farms stretching from coastal areas to inland ponds and lakes, where humans control almost the entire life cycle of shrimp, fish, and crabs. So exactly how are humans catching and farming aquatic animals to sustain this gigantic machine? Join Terran Works as we explore it in today's video. In 2025, U.S. fishing fleets harvested approximately 1.46 million tons of Alaska pollock, equivalent to more than 3.2 billion pounds, from the Bering Sea, the Aleutian Islands, and the Gulf of Alaska. Alaska pollock have elongated bodies, olive green backs with brown tones, silvery sides, and pale white bellies. Dark spots run along their bodies, helping them blend into the deep cold waters, while their large eyes assist them in hunting in low-light environments. When fully grown, most fish are around 30 to 50 centimeters long and often gather in extremely large schools, sometimes stretching for kilometers beneath the surface. To locate these schools of fish in the rough waters of the Bering Sea, fishing vessels use sonar and modern positioning systems. When signals indicate that the fish density is high enough, a midwater trawl net is released, expanding like a giant funnel behind the vessel. Unlike bottom trawls, this type of net operates mainly within the water column, where Alaska pollock are moving. After several hours, the net is hauled up, bringing dozens or even hundreds of tons of fish onto the deck. On factory ships, the fish are quickly sorted, cleaned, frozen, or processed into fillets, surimi, and various other food products right in the middle of the ocean. Atlantic sea scallops, Placopecten magellanicus, are one of the most valuable wild-caught seafood species in the United States, inhabiting sandy and gravelly seabeds from Georges Bank to the mid-Atlantic region. Unlike Hokkaido scallops, which are often farmed using suspended ropes, most American scallops are harvested directly from the wild by specialized vessels operating out of Massachusetts, Virginia, and New Jersey. This is also the largest wild scallop fishery in the world. When they reach the fishing grounds, crew members lower steel dredge frames fitted with ring mesh onto the seafloor. The vessel tows the equipment across scallop beds for a set period, then uses hydraulic winches to lift the entire frame onto the deck. Thousands of scallop shells, along with sand, rocks, and marine life, spill onto the deck, creating one of the most impressive harvesting scenes in the American seafood industry. Workers quickly sort the catch, remove undersized scallops, and shuck them right at sea. The white meat, the most valuable part, is washed, bagged, and preserved with ice. Shells and many unwanted marine organisms are returned to the sea. In 2024, the Atlantic sea scallop fishery generated approximately 333 million USDs. The resource is managed through quotas, trip limits, and the rotation of closed and open fishing areas, giving scallop beds time to recover before the fleet returns. Argentine red shrimp are wild crustaceans known for their naturally pinkish red shells, growing in the cold, nutrient-rich waters off Patagonia. Unlike most white-leg shrimp on the market, they are hardly farmed industrially and must be harvested directly from the sea. Fishermen use specialized fishing vessels called tangoneros, equipped with two long metal booms extending to both sides to simultaneously tow two nets near the seafloor. After several hours of following the shrimp schools, the nets are hauled up and the entire catch is brought onto the deck. The shrimp are immediately sorted by size, washed, packed, and frozen right on the vessel to preserve their color, texture, and freshness before reaching port. Fishing activities are regulated according to seasons and surveys of stock levels, distribution, and reproductive conditions. In 2025, Argentina exported approximately 119,775 tons of shrimp, generating 867 million USD, with an average price of around 7,200 US per ton, making red shrimp the most valuable export product of the country's fishing industry. Atlantic salmon is one of the most prominent symbols of Norway's seafood industry. But unlike Alaska pollock or Argentine red shrimp, most salmon here are not caught in the wild, but are raised in large-scale industrial marine farms. Young salmon are hatched in freshwater facilities and cared for until they are able to adapt to saltwater, then transported by specialized vessels to enormous circular net pens located in the middle of fjords. Here, hundreds of thousands of fish swim in cold, oxygen-rich water, fed by automated systems and continuously monitored by cameras, temperature sensors, salinity sensors, and disease detection equipment. After more than a year of growth in the sea, when the fish reach market size, harvesting vessels approach the farming pens. The fish are guided through pipes or gently pumped onto live fish carrier vessels, minimizing impact and stress before being transported to processing plants. They are quickly cleaned, sorted, filleted, packaged, and kept chilled for export around the world. Norway still has wild salmon migrating through its rivers and coastal waters, but fishing activities are strictly controlled through seasons, licenses, and quotas. Therefore, behind every piece of Norwegian salmon lies not only the cold ocean, but also an entire modern marine farming system, where technology and nature work together to create one of the most valuable seafood industries in the world. In just the first half of 2025, Chilean jack mackerel generated 294 million USD, an increase of 28.4% compared with the same period. Scientifically known as Trichuris murphyi, this species migrates in enormous schools across the South Pacific. What makes them special is not the size of each individual fish, but their incredible abundance, sometimes appearing like a moving silver river beneath the surface. To locate the schools, Chilean fishing vessels use sonar to scan deep into the water column. When a sufficiently large mass of signals appears on the screen, the vessel quickly deploys a purse seine to surround the school. The bottom of the net is then tightened like a giant bag, keeping hundreds of thousands of fish inside the floating net. Instead of hauling the entire catch onto the deck, the crew uses high-capacity pipes to pump the fish along with seawater into refrigerated holds, allowing continuous harvesting while reducing damage to the catch. After reaching port, the fish are sorted, frozen whole, canned, or sent to processing lines. In 2025, Chile set a catch quota of more than 1.02 million tons for Chilean jack mackerel. The previous year, exports of this species reached a record of approximately 402 million USD, with Africa being an important market. Therefore, Chilean jack mackerel not only creates catches that blanket the sea surface in silver, but also serves as a major source of food and foreign currency for Chile. Peru has long been considered one of the world's largest centers for fish meal and fish oil production, and behind this massive industry is the Peruvian anchoveta, or anchoveta. Thanks to the cold and nutrient-rich Humboldt Current, anchoveta are found in dense concentrations along the coast of Peru, becoming the foundation of one of the largest fishing industries in the world. Before heading out to sea, industrial vessels use survey data and sonar to determine the location of fish schools. When a target appears on the screen like a dense cloud, the vessel immediately deploys a purse seine to surround the school. The bottom of the net is then tightened, trapping the entire school inside a giant bag in the middle of the ocean. The fish are then pumped through high-capacity pipes into the vessel's hold and quickly transported to coastal processing plants. Most anchoveta are not sold whole, but are processed into fish meal and fish oil, important ingredients for feed used in salmon, shrimp, and many other aquaculture species. In 2025 alone, Peru allocated a quota of 3 million tons for the first season and 1.63 million tons for the second season in the north-central region. The anchoveta industry generates more than 250,000 direct and indirect jobs, turning a tiny fish into a giant link in the global food chain. Pacific Saury, known in Japan as sanma, has a long, slender body shaped like a sword, a dark blue back, a silver belly, and a distinctive pointed snout. Every autumn, large schools migrate through the waters of northern Japan, making sanma one of the iconic flavors of the season and a familiar ingredient for grilled dishes, canned products, and frozen foods. The fishery usually takes place at night, when vessels switch on powerful lighting systems to attract the fish toward the surface. Under the bright lights, thousands of silver bodies shimmer across the dark sea. The crew opens a wide lift net along the side of the vessel, guides the school into position, then raises the entire net as if lifting a giant tray from the water. Fish finders, energy-efficient LED lights, and modern pumping systems allow vessels to locate schools, harvest more quickly, and transfer the catch into refrigerated holds without interrupting operations. As soon as the fish reach the deck, they are sorted and chilled with seawater or covered with ice to preserve their glossy skin and meat quality. The 2025 fishing season began on August 10th. By the end of November, Japanese lift net vessels had landed approximately 61,269 tons, a sharp increase from 38,681 tons in 2024. However, the stock is still managed through international catch limits, showing that behind the brightly illuminated vessels at night lies a race to balance commercial value, culinary tradition, and the endurance of the ocean. Few fish demonstrate the enormous scale of Japan's fishing industry as clearly as sardines. When sonar detects a school, vessels quickly deploy purse seines to surround the fish and then tighten the bottom of the net like a giant bag. This is the primary fishing method for sardines in Japan and is managed through quotas to protect the resource. After the net is tightened, the fish are lifted or pumped onto the vessel and chilled immediately to preserve their bright skin and tender flesh. At the port, they are sorted for fresh sale, grilling, sashimi, drying, or canning. Thus, a tiny fish becomes a familiar food source and an important link in Japan's fishing industry. Atlantic bluefin tuna are among the most powerful predators in the ocean, with robust, streamlined bodies, dark blue backs, silvery sides, and deep red muscle tissue. Large individuals can reach around 3 meters in length, weigh 600 kilograms, and reach speeds of nearly 90 kilometers per hour. Every year they travel thousands of kilometers from feeding grounds in the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean Sea to spawn. On the coast of Cadiz, Spain, one of the most famous fishing methods is almadraba. Instead of chasing schools of fish with trawlers, fishermen construct a giant maze of nets secured by an anchoring system at depths of up to around 30 meters. When the tuna pass through the Strait of Gibraltar, the nets gradually guide them into the final chamber, called the copo. At the right moment, several boats close the circle and raise the bottom of the net toward the surface in a harvest known as the levanta. The giant fish thrash violently within the circle of boats, making the sea appear to boil before they are brought onto the deck. After reaching shore, the tuna are rapidly chilled, sorted, and cut into various valuable cuts for restaurants, frozen processing, and export. In 2025, Spain was allocated a quota of approximately 6,783.67 tons of bluefin tuna. Therefore, each almadraba harvest is not only a spectacular sight in the ocean, but also an intersection of thousands of years of tradition, the premium seafood market, and a strictly controlled fishing system. From schools of silver fish swirling beneath the ocean to massive vessels returning with holds filled to capacity, the seafood industry shows how humans have transformed the sea into a global production network. But behind every catch lies a question of limits, responsibility, and the future of this source of life. The ocean can be generous, but it is not infinite. Only when technology goes hand in hand with sustainable management can these journeys to sea continue. California is the world's largest almond-producing region. The state supplies about 80% of the global almond supply and nearly all of the commercial almond production in the United States. Across the Central Valley, more than 1.3 million acres of almond orchards are in production, with approximately 7,600 farming operations involved in cultivation. The production cycle begins in winter, when almond trees enter their dormant stage. By February, orchards burst into bloom. This is the most critical period, as almonds depend on bees for pollination. Millions of beehives are transported to California, making the almond bloom season one of the largest pollination events in American agriculture. After pollination, the almonds continue to develop for several months. Farmers must manage irrigation, nutrition, pests, diseases, and overall tree health. In California, where droughts occur frequently, many farms use drip irrigation or micro-irrigation systems to conserve water. From August to October, the harvest season begins. Mechanical shakers grip the tree trunks and shake them vigorously, causing the nuts to fall to the ground. The almonds are naturally dried, after which sweepers gather them into rows. Pickup machines collect them, and they are transported to processing facilities. There, the almonds are hulled, cleaned, sorted, and processed into roasted almonds, almond flour, almond butter, or almond milk. The almond industry is not only a symbol of California, but also one of the most important agricultural export sectors in the United States. If California is the symbol of almonds, then Idaho has almost turned potatoes into the identity of an entire state. Thanks to its fertile volcanic soil, cool nighttime climate, and irrigation systems supplied by the Snake River, Idaho has become the largest potato-producing state in the United States. In 2024, the state planted approximately 315,000 acres of potatoes and harvested 314,500 acres, producing more than 135 million CW, equivalent to about 13.5 billion pounds of potatoes. The production process begins in spring, when farmers plant seed potatoes in long rows of soil. Throughout the growing season, potato plants require consistent irrigation, pest and disease control, and careful nutrient management to ensure that the tubers develop uniformly underground. As the plants mature, the stems and leaves above the ground begin to dry out. Harvesting machines dig into the soil, lift the potatoes onto conveyor belts, remove excess dirt, rocks, and plant material, and then load the potatoes onto trucks. From the fields, the potatoes are transported to large storage facilities, where temperature, humidity, and ventilation are carefully controlled to preserve quality for many months. Afterward, Idaho potatoes are sorted either for the fresh market or sent to processing plants to be made into potato chips, frozen potatoes, and many other food products. This integrated chain, from the field to storage and processing, has helped Idaho become the most famous potato capital of the United States. If Idaho is remembered for potatoes, then Washington is the greatest symbol of American apples. Thanks to its dry climate, long sunny days, cool nights, and irrigation water supplied by the valleys east of the Cascade Range, Washington has become the most important apple-producing state in the United States. In 2024, the state's utilized apple production reached approximately 7.18 billion pounds, with a value of nearly $1.95 billion. The production process begins in spring, when apple orchards bloom and require pollination to produce fruit. Throughout the growing season, farmers must manage irrigation, prune branches, control pests and diseases, and monitor the size, color, and sweetness of the fruit. Apples are a crop that requires careful attention, as even a small bruise or defect on the skin can reduce their value in the fresh market. When harvest season arrives, many apples are still picked by hand to prevent bruising. Workers place the apples into large bins, which are then transported to packing facilities. There, the apples are washed, sorted according to size, color, defects, and quality. Apples that meet market standards are packed for fresh sale, while a portion may be processed into juice, applesauce, or other products. A distinctive feature of Washington's apple industry lies in its post-harvest handling. Apples can be stored in cold storage facilities or controlled atmosphere warehouses to preserve their crispness, color, and flavor for many months. As a result, Washington apples are not only available during the fall harvest season, but can also be distributed year-round to supermarkets across the country and to many export markets. Wisconsin is the largest cranberry-producing state in the United States, typically accounting for about 60% of the nation's total production. In 2024, approximately 19,600 acres of cranberries were harvested in Wisconsin, with an average yield of about 280 barrels per acre, resulting in more than 5.48 million barrels. This has made the small red berry one of the state's most distinctive agricultural symbols. Cranberries do not grow like typical fruit crops. They are cultivated in low-lying areas known as bogs or marshes, where water systems are carefully controlled. Throughout the growing season, farmers must manage irrigation, weeds, pests, diseases, and protect the plants from frost. Water is not used only for irrigation. It is also an important tool for protecting the plants during cold weather and for supporting the harvest process. The most fascinating part of cranberry production is the harvest season. Instead of picking the berries individually, farmers flood the fields with water. Specialized machines then move through the flooded bogs to separate the berries from the vines. Because cranberries contain small air pockets inside, they float to the surface, turning entire fields into a sea of bright red. Workers use floating booms to gather the berries into large clusters before pumping them or conveying them onto trucks. After harvest, the cranberries are cleaned, sorted, and processed into cranberry juice, cranberry sauce, dried cranberries, or packaged food products. This unique water harvesting method makes Wisconsin cranberries not only economically valuable, but also one of the most striking images of American agriculture. Florida was once the greatest symbol of oranges and orange juice in the United States. With its subtropical climate, warm winters, and vast agricultural lands across the central part of the state, Florida developed into the nation's orange capital, supplying the juice industry for decades. However, it is also one of the most turbulent stories in modern American agriculture. During the 2024-25 season, Florida's orange production reached only about 12.2 million boxes, a 32% decline from the previous season. This figure reflects the dramatic contraction of Florida's orange industry compared to its peak years, when orange groves stretched across the landscape and supplied massive volumes of fruit for the American orange juice industry. Orange production begins in perennial orchards. Farmers must care for the trees over many years, managing irrigation, nutrition, pests, diseases, and protecting groves from hurricanes. When the fruit ripens, oranges are harvested either by hand or, in some orchards dedicated to processing, by machine. For fresh market oranges, hand-picking helps minimize damage to the peel. For juice oranges, the fruit is transported quickly to processing plants, where it is washed, squeezed, filtered, treated, and packaged into orange juice. A distinctive feature of Florida's orange industry is that most of the fruit does not go directly to supermarkets as fresh oranges, but is instead processed into juice. This has made the state's orange sector closely tied to processing plants, cold storage facilities, and beverage distribution networks. But behind this iconic industry lies immense pressure. Citrus greening disease weakens trees, produces smaller fruit, and reduces yields, while recurring hurricanes cause fruit drop, damage groves, and increase production costs. As a result, Florida oranges are not merely an agricultural product, but also the story of an icon struggling to survive. Minnesota is widely regarded as the turkey capital of the United States. For many years, the state has been the nation's largest turkey producer, raising approximately 32 to 33.5 million turkeys annually. Across the state, more than 600 turkey farms generate over $1 billion in economic activity and support tens of thousands of jobs related to farming, feed production, transportation, and processing. The production process begins at hatcheries, where eggs are incubated under carefully controlled temperature and humidity conditions. After hatching, the poults are transferred to growing farms, where housing conditions are managed with precise control of temperature, ventilation, lighting, feed, and water. Unlike the traditional image of free-ranging poultry, Minnesota's turkey industry operates as a modern livestock production system that requires strict environmental management and biosecurity measures. Throughout the growing cycle, feed is largely based on corn and soybeans, two of the Midwest's most important crops. This means the turkey industry is not isolated from the broader American agricultural system, but is directly connected to crop farming, feed manufacturing, and logistics networks. Once the birds reach the appropriate market weight, they are transported to processing facilities and distributed in various forms, including whole turkeys, cut portions, frozen products, and prepared foods. Turkeys are also closely associated with Thanksgiving, making Minnesota not only a major production center, but also part of a symbol deeply embedded in the traditional American dining table. Agriculture does not only provide food for the United States, it is also an important part of the country's economic strength and global position. The true value of agriculture extends far beyond the farm, reaching into food processing, transportation, cold storage, retail, exports, and food service industries. The first benefit is food security. Thanks to its large-scale production system, the United States can supply substantial quantities of grains, meat, dairy products, fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, and processed foods to its domestic market. The second benefit is employment and industrial value chains. An agricultural product does not end its journey in a field or on a farm. It moves through harvesting machinery, trucks, processing plants, storage facilities, seaports, supermarkets, and restaurants. As a result, agriculture creates jobs not only for farmers, but also for factory workers, drivers, engineers, logistics personnel, and workers throughout the food industry. The third benefit is exports. In 2024, the United States exported approximately $176 billion worth of agricultural products. This makes agriculture an important economic tool, bringing American products to hundreds of markets around the world. However, behind this enormous scale, American agriculture also faces numerous limitations and controversies. In California and many Western states, water scarcity is becoming an increasing challenge for irrigation-dependent crops such as almonds, vegetables, and fruit. In Florida, the orange industry has declined significantly due to citrus greening disease, hurricanes, and rising production costs. In livestock production, large-scale farming systems help reduce costs, but they also generate debates over waste management, animal welfare, and environmental impacts. In addition, many small farms are finding it increasingly difficult to compete as the costs of land, machinery, labor, and technology continue to rise. As a result, American agriculture is both a symbol of efficiency and a major challenge